Boy, we got some doctors today on Know the Cause. Dr. Julia Schulenberg is coming in today. What do her patients present with? She's a naturopathic doctor. Lots of issues, but tummy problems and a lot of fungal issues. She'll be joining us. Dr. Glenn King and Dr. Lee Cowden, a dear cardiologist friend of mine, talking about ways you can intervene in a serious medical situation yourself using your hands, okay? And then opening the show, inhalation of, now they're saying COVID vaccine. Wait a minute, we've heard this before. AstraZeneca's flu mist, really an abysmal failure, but here comes more. Inhalable vaccines, all that and more on this. Know the Cause.
For the past 45 years, I have dedicated my life and my whole career to finding the root cause of disease. And I now know with certainty that we must play a role in our own health care. I'm a self-care advocate, and you know what? Every time you change your diet for the better, exercise, or swallow a nutritional supplement, so are you. Now welcome to Know the Cause.
Folks, many people in the medical industry, I was one of them, have this phobia about needles. And yet before I went to Vietnam, boom, 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 all these shots were given to me, right? All these vaccinations before I went. What do they say? 20, 25, 30% of physicians and nurses are questioning, the COVID vaccine. Are they questioning the pain? Are they questioning the delivery? Well, we've got an answer for that according to scientists. New vaccine delivery being studied. Isn't this exciting? Doctors at Massachusetts Institute of Technology, or MIT, have demonstrated that the inhalation route might be better than the injection route in certain vaccines, including the COVID-19. You see, folks, people are saying, I just don't like shots. I'm not going to get a shot. I'm not going to stand in line, drive up window and get a shot. So what these MIT doctors are saying is, okay, well, everybody can take an inhalation, right? Why do they want this in us so badly? It's a question I've had for a year now. Inhaled vaccines, they say, will work more quickly. In addition, the research on mice showed that an inhalable vaccine is 25 times more effective than one injected into a muscle. How soon we forget. How soon this is exciting. If I'm avoiding the COVID shot, because I have this phobia of needles, this sounds kind of interesting. Maybe I'll just drive up to a clinic and boom, I'm vaccinated against COVID. A lot of questions surrounding that, I know. So it's 25 times better than a COVID vaccine. This is MIT, smart people work out there. Haven't we heard this before? About 5 years ago, CBS News reported AstraZeneca's flu mist was once regarded as the best vaccine for protecting children against the flu. Only 2 years ago, in 2014, they say, officials advised doctors that whenever possible, they should use this approach, the inhaled vaccine. It was called flu mist. I'll never forget this. I reported on Know the Cause about this. Now, they stated on Wednesday, a federal advisory committee on immunizations voted to retract its endorsement of the vaccine after preliminary Center for Disease Control study results presented to the committee showed, and I underscored this, it provided no protection from the flu strain that made most people sick last year. The flu mist just didn't work. Oh, by the way, as I recall, it generated $300 to $500 million in sales. But like a lot of things, folks, we just oversold it. There was hope. Science is not exact, as we have learned. Okay, was the flu mist effective? This one doctor with the CDC says this: we could find no evidence the flu mist was effective, said Dr. Joseph Percy, a flu expert with the U.S. Center for Disease Control and Prevention. Here's a physician that said it didn't work. Folks, are you hearing what I'm saying? So instead of giving kids flu shots, they said, aha, they'll take this and we can, sell a lot of these. But when they did the real studies, it just didn't work. And now MIT doctors are saying, to heck with the COVID shot, we're going to come up with something 25 times more effective. You know where I'm going with this, right? Here we go. AstraZeneca, the makers of Fungus, now has a new COVID-19 injectable vaccine. The Oxford AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine, codenamed AZD1222, is a COVID-19 vaccine developed by Oxford University and AstraZeneca, given by intramuscular injection, using as a vector the modified chimpanzee adenovirus ChAd-OX1. So here's a company that really made a lot of money off the flu mist until the Center for Disease Control and others said, hey, it doesn't work. Now they've left that, although MIT doctors are working on this being 25 times more effective than the flu shot, or than the COVID vaccine. What do we know about the effectiveness of that? Here is the purported COVID-19 accuracy rates. AstraZeneca, one-dose regimen showed 90% efficacy. Look down below. Pfizer-BioNTech's vaccine has a 95% effectiveness. Moderna's COVID-19 is 94% effective at preventing symptomatic. Let's keep going. It doesn't stop there. How can an MIT inhaled COVID-19 vaccine be 20 times more effective than a 95% effective injected vaccine? I'm lost. But I got lost about a year and a half ago, and I've never landed, folks. Antibody production. That's what God put in our immune system. When something foreign comes into my nose, my mouth, my environment, my body amps up an immune response and makes an antibody against that. An antigen-antibody response assures us immunity. Herd immunity is gained when someone near us has the flu, we get the flu, we give it to others, and within 6 months, we're all immune to it because we have antibodies. I'm still lost on antibody production and what these newer vaccines are doing, but how should it be given to us? Should we inhale it? Should we take a shot? We're being sold this thing is almost 100% effective. Okay, now comes a big university saying we're 25 times more effective than your 95% vaccine. Does that make sense to you? I'm glad I've got you thinking. Share this with your doctor. I am the most blessed person in America. I get to interview doctors that are extraordinary. Not good at sitting down and talking about a flu shot every year or this medication or this medication. Not real interest, and I don't know if you have that either. Rather, doctors who are precedent setting. Dr. Glenn King, I met years ago by taking a friend in to see him. And the friend talked all the way back. It took us about an hour to get back. What this doctor was doing was unbelievable. Welcome, Dr. King. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
And your dear buddy of almost 40 years, Dr. Lee Cowden,
Yes.
Cardiologist Dr. Lee Cowden. Tell us a little bit about the King method and its inception and where you've taken it from there, all the way, by the way, to an app. You need this app, but go ahead.
Yes, well, I started out studying a lot of different things because my mind is one that wants to know how things tick. And at the time of my discovery with this, I was studying acupuncture, the Japanese, Chinese, Korean, and even the American version of it. And then I found this. Once I studied enough and tested it out, I've never used acupuncture since. It does work with the energy method. If I may share, there's so many, we could go on forever. But there is a lot of what we call EMT with a twist. It's with integrative medicine. And there is one for burns. There's a simple step that's a single step. We call palm and calves as a lay term. And what it is you put the center of your palm on the largest part of the calf muscle of the other person. So my right would be on their left leg, and my left would be on their right leg, which would put my fingers right about at the crease behind their knee. And then you just relax. Your fingers are together. You're not grasping or anything else. Now, a story that comes to mind for that is a child, a very young child, a few years old, that was burned badly in a house fire. There were several children there. There were no parents at the moment. The baby didn't make it, the baby of the house. And this child was the next worst victim. And they were in the burn center in Fort Worth, Texas. And they were in an induced coma because of a child, the level of pain and everything else. I was called. I didn't get there until the day after that they were admitted. And what I saw was the head bandaged, the nose bandaged, and the fingers and the back. So I talked to the nurses and the doctors to get as much information as I could aside from the mother. And they said, we've already got the child scheduled for surgery the next morning for doing some grafting with the fingers because there's very little tissue there. We need to do something quickly. And I said, what is the prognosis of this? So we don't know at this point. The child's going to be here for months and months. We'll just have to see how it goes. But there's going to be multiple surgeries and so forth. So I started applying, and I taught the mother what to do, and basically asked them to put up a poster and let everybody know that wants to come and visit that do this one simple step that anybody can do, and do it perpetually as much as you can, not just a single step and go on, because this is a very severe situation. I came back the next day. The next day the child did have the surgery on the fingers. Surgeon said it went well, but the recovery, one of the things that happens with TKM with this is that it not only helps cool the burn to take the heat out, but also help relieve pain, even very serious pain, and also very phenomenally helps regenerate tissue very quickly. So I was surprised already the next day that the bandage was off the nose and nothing was done to it. So to make this long, fantastic story short, it ended up that that surgery they had the next morning was the last surgery that they did. The parents and different ones that came to visit were very dedicated in applying this as perpetual as possible. And that child was out of the hospital within 3 weeks.
A physician hearing this story the first time in 1987 when you did, as a cardiologist, you know, one of the things I love about you, Dr. Cowden, is you trust everyone. You know, your heart is so good, you trust everyone. Yeah. And you mentioned you raised an eyebrow when meeting Dr. King. He said, oh good, if someone's having a heart attack, just do this. And then you applied it. You have now, for what, 35 years, seen it over and over and used it over and over again.
Yes.
And it works.
Yeah. Yeah, this technique that he just described with palming the calves also works really well for reducing the total body load of toxicity. And so
we can self-detox?
Yeah.
Or you can assist someone. Obviously, that'd be rough on your own calf.
Yeah.
Right.
But
yeah, so it helps the patient to move toxins to the kidneys, into the toilet, through the liver and the gallbladder and the bowel into the toilet. And it's quite remarkable that something that simple can be that effective.
Is the body electric?
Yes.
I mean, it just makes so much sense to me. This,
Yeah.
And where is that child today? I mean, that was many years ago.
We tried to find the child recently because we're doing some papers to submit for peer reviewed. I was not able to locate that child.
Who needs to hear this about this method? TKM, it's called.
Yeah, every doctor, every nurse, every paramedic for sure needs to know this. But I've taught this to 11-year-old children, and they're able to do it and have success. Okay.
Would you like to learn it? Who wouldn't? TKM, the King Method app.com, or just TKM.com will get you that app. Thank you both, doctors. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you very much.
You bet. Folks, it's an honor to be sitting here with Dr. Julia Schulenberg. Dr. Schulenberg was a registered nurse, had her bachelor's degree in nursing, and then became a certified lymph therapist, and then became a naturopathic doctor. A naturopathic doctor doesn't do surgery, doesn't prescribe medications very often. In some states they can. These doctors look at when this is ringing, and when spelled with a W, holistic might apply. It isn't here, it's here. And most of the time, Dr. Julia, if I may call you that, most of the time, it's here. It's gut. It's something you're eating or not metabolizing, or it's bacteria in the gut from past antibiotics, etc. Do you notice in your patients that they come for one thing, skin, brain, and then you start dwelling on the gut? Teach us a little about what you're hearing.
Well, everyone I see when they have a chronic illness or an acute illness, probably all of them have inflammation of the gut. Okay, but then when, let's say with your example with it ringing in the ear, then I know then there's lymphatic congestion, and then there's fungi. If there's lymphatic congestion, then I always test for fungi, because fungi can contribute to that lymphatic congestion. And then of course that fungi will contribute to large intestine inflammation as well. It could be diarrhea, or it could be bloating. And then if there's fungi in the large intestines, then most likely it's always multifactorial. There's fungi, there can be parasites, there can be viruses in the gut. Our gut has trillions of microorganisms. They're good microorganisms and bad microorganisms. So we have the probiotics to give the good microorganisms. There's about 100 different strains of probiotics. The most common are 7 or 9 strains in these bottles. But then if we start eating the right food that contain the probiotics, that'll help. And then if someone has a leaky gut because of inflammation, because of the wrong foods that they're consuming, those wrong foods can be the grains, or else it can be moldy food, or else, I've had food that's been moldy and I could feel it right away, so I pop in some of my antifungal remedies immediately.
You know, it's interesting. I remember one time at the hospital I worked with all these doctors. This woman came in who had horrible skin problems, psoriasis, seborrheic dermatitis, etc., all sorts of stuff. And she said, I just got back from my gastroenterologist, so can we hurry, Doug? I got to go to this ologist and this ologist. And I said, sure, what did you talk to your gastroenterologist about diet? Yeah, he said diet doesn't really play a role in my intestines. Food must fall out of a person's ear. If it doesn't, I mean, I can't believe that a gastroenterologist would say that, because you have found that diet is 90% of this.
Oh, I think it's 100% really, because some people can get well just by eating the right foods and avoiding the wrong foods. So
Take me through that quickly in the minute we have left. What are some right foods? What are some wrong foods?
I would say the right foods would be the greens, the low fructose fruits, because there's high fructose and low fructose fruits. So choose the fruits that are lower in fructose, especially if you're trying to heal yourself. And then the dark greens, the dark leafy greens. A lot of people, when they make a veggie drink or a smoothie, they think mango, pineapple,
Juice,
sugar,
right.
strawberry, banana. Those are all high fructose, fungal feeding ingredients. And what they don't think about is bok choy, chard, rainbow chard, green chard, mustard greens, collard greens, spinach, dandelion greens. That doesn't even cross their mind. They didn't even know they exist.
And now let's go back to that gastroenterologist. Did you say chard? How do you spell that? Therein lies the problem. In medicine, folks, they're very good. If I drive out of here and get hit by a truck, I'm going to go to a doctor who knows how to reset that bone, put a cast on it, do an x-ray. But for the most part, we shine in emergency medicine, but we let people down when it comes to quickly prescribing, you know, acid blockers, etc. Dr. Julia Schulenberg is very good at helping people through these difficult times. She can do this telemed on the phone. We'll put up her phone number, her website, Holistic Healing JS, JuliaSchulenberg.com. Thank you for being with us today. The gut's a big deal.
Huge.
Big deal.
Thank you.
You know, part of the equation is avoiding the fungus that might be causing your infection. The other part is treating it, antifungal drugs or supplements, resveratrol, caprylic acid. We talk about these on the show. But the third is probably the most important part after avoiding it, and that is starving it. So this headline came up in the news last year or 2 years ago, and boy, I bound to it. Look at this headline. Drug-resistant infections. If you can't beat them, starve them. Science finds. I was so excited about this. Look, at University of Buffalo, researchers discovered that to treat Candida albicans yeast infection, it should be starved. I'm in. Finally, they get it. I know Doug Kaufman's name is going to appear in that. Although I've never been to the University of Buffalo, I know they're talking about the Kaufman diet starving yeast. How I wish. Sometimes I get let down. Starve yeast of food? No. Starve it of iron. Human and fungal cells require iron, they say, for many different metabolic pathways, including to transport oxygen. I know that. Our cells adapt to some iron, but protect us from too much iron. Using mice with oral yeast infections, the researchers found that by using an existing drug for blood disorders, oral iron levels decreased and slowed yeast growth. Okay, so what I learned from that? Iron's antifungal. But folks, that isn't going to fix the yeast problem. And with all due respect to them, where they're going with this is, hey, we can lower the yeast load by cutting off iron from it. Okay, so what is my take on this? I'm in love with that headline. When I saw that headline, drug-resistant infections, if you can't beat them, starve them, science find. I reached through my computer and high-fived them. But yeast cells require so much more than just iron starvation alone. They thrive on carbohydrates in our diet. Why not eat a Kaufman low-carb diet to starve the yeast? And then I got to thinking what you would like to know, especially if you're a brand new viewer and we're in so many markets and so many networks. Maybe you are new at this. Maybe you're having symptoms from head to toe and you've been to doctor after doctor after doctor and pills aren't working for this, okay? No one has said the D word to you, diet. I had to learn this almost 50 years ago. Plentiful carbohydrates in our diet. Folks, here are some of them. Bread, rice, breakfast cereal, wheat, pasta, soda pop, pastries, fruit juices, beer. Now remember, they're good carbs in our diet, vegetables, fruits, etc. But that's what the Kaufman diet encompassed. What I wanted to do is keep you away from the enriched and the grain foods and lead you into a better carbohydrate than most people offer, okay? Here's the bottom line and the take-home message. Most medical researchers take existing medical problems, hey, I have a yeast problem, and look for chemicals to manage them. If you have yeast problems, I agree that starving them works, but far more than just iron, starving them of carbohydrates in your diet that have been feeding the yeast perhaps all of your life may fix the yeast problem for good. And I say in there, folks, may fix the yeast problem for good. Through the years, I have enjoyed such great abilities to help people with diet. The doctors that I worked with through the past 40 years prescribed antifungal drugs, and then we knew in a couple of weeks with the drugs and with the antifungal diet, these people would come back after years of suffering skin or brain or tummy problems and high-five us. Yeast doesn't go away in a few weeks, nor just by starving it of iron. It takes a while, but it's well worth your efforts. I hope that helps. Drug-resistant infections. Are they fungal? Folks, thank you so much for allowing me in your home every day. I just want to take a couple of seconds and say God bless you. 22-year run on television, and we're still going strong. Thank you for being a part of it. Great shows like today are coming to you Monday to Friday every week. God bless. Bye-bye.